On the far end, on the other end of that spectrum, we have unschooling. And unschooling is as opposite of conventional school as you can possibly think of.
I know that so many parents who are bringing their kids home, they don't want, or even if they've had their kids home, they don't want super hardcore structure. They don't want a very rigorous schedule. You know, the classical and even Charlotte Mason and unit studies and traditional, those can be fun, but they're like, you know what? I'm just one of those crunchy mamas. I really want to do my own thing. I really don't want to adhere to anyone else's idea of what school should look like for my family, but they really want something that is just kind of more relaxed. And I don't mean lazy, because as we've talked about before, homeschooling is not for those who are lazy about it. You can't be. I mean, you have to put some effort into it. Anything like this is going to take some work, but maybe you don't want as much structure. And so we have Alison here this week to help guide us through this idea of unschooling, but she's going to kind of explain to us what unschooling is, and she's going to give us a different taste for that. So talk to us about this.
So unschooling, if you think of all of the different approaches to education, you can kind of plot them on almost like a spectrum. Mm-hmm. And so at the one far end, the super far end, you have what we're trying to get away from, which is what I refer to as conventional school. Right. So what we consider, what's typically considered school, right? The public school, classroom, homework, blah, 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 that. On the far end, on the other end of that spectrum, we have unschooling. And unschooling is as opposite of conventional school as you can possibly think of. Right. And by its most standard definition, it is a child-led approach where the parent really kind of is not totally hands-off, but they're pretty hands-off. They really let their child decide what it is they want to learn, how they want to learn it. The parent is a facilitator. They will sometimes do what's called strewing, which is you kind of like just kind of play stuff out, like turn on a documentary and leave it on and see if anyone's interested in watching, or get some books from the library and just kind of leave them out, see if they're interested. So you're kind of exposing them to things, giving them opportunities to get involved in things, but really just letting them decide what is it they want to learn, what is it they want to do. There are some very radical, very extreme versions of this, which I would not consider to be necessarily the most Christian approach, because I do believe as Christians, we are called to specifically teach our children certain things. And if our children are not naturally interested in those things, we can't just say, well, they didn't want to learn about God, so I decided not to teach them. There are definitely things that we have to step up and say, no, I'm responsible for making sure that you know this, and we are going to learn this. And so there are some very radical approaches where parents, they just kind of let their kid do their thing. Right. And then there are versions of it, including what I call simplified homeschooling, which is kind of unschooling with boundaries. Like if you've ever gone bowling where they blow up those bumpers in the gutter so you never get a gutter ball, I kind of think of it as unschooling with those blow up gutters. You've got some boundaries that are keeping you in place and are guiding you, not in a super structured way, not in you have to do this. It is still very holistic. It's still very much about, helping your kids figure out what they like and what they want to do and coming alongside them and making that possible. Mm-hmm. But then also specifically saying, hey, it is really important that you know these things, you understand these things, you do these things. But teaching them in a way that aligns with who God has made them to be. Yeah. God has designed our kids to want to learn in a certain way, to have a natural bent towards, maybe being very logically focused or very socially focused. We have to figure that out as parents, and then figure out the stuff that I really need you to know. How can I teach this in a way that lines up with who God has made you to be? Yeah.
So it's not schooling.
Right.
Because that's what I think
not education.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, is that people think unschooling is not schooling. So I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to let my kids explore the world around them, which is good and important. But like you said, you've got to give them some kind of boundaries and some sort of structure and some kind of instruction and resources to learn the things that they need to learn, but you're going to do it according to their own strengths, according to their own weaknesses, according to who and how God created them to be. Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.